The stars looked different when you knew you were not welcome among them. Dr. Minho Kim pressed his face against the cold window of the human ship Persistence and watched the alien sun cast strange shadows across the planet below. 3 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council, and they still treated humans like children who could not be trusted with grown-up toys. Another dead world, Captain Jiwan Lee said, walking up behind him. Her voice carried the weight of disappointment that had become too familiar. The Council said we could explore this system, but there is nothing here worth finding. Minho turned from the window. The captain looked tired. They all did. Exploring the galaxy should have been exciting, but the Council made sure humans only got to visit empty planets and failed colonies. They said it was for humanity's own good. Humans were too young, too violent, too unpredictable to handle real galactic technology. The surface scans show something interesting, Minho said. He pulled out his datapad and showed her the readings. There are metal fragments in the southern continent. They do not match anything from this planet. Jiwan studied the data. A ship captain, she had learned to read between the lines of Council restrictions. Metal fragments could be anything. Old mining equipment, natural formations, or a crashed ship, Minho suggested. The captain was quiet for a long moment. They both knew the rules. Any alien technology had to be reported to the Council immediately. Humans were not allowed to study it, touch it, or even look at it too closely. The Council said their technology was sacred, blessed by ancient gods, and too dangerous for primitive species to understand. Send down a survey team, Jiwan finally decided. But keep it quiet. If it is nothing, we saved ourselves some paperwork. If it is something? She left the sentence hanging. 2 hours later, Minho stood on the planet's surface with engineer Hana Cho and Dr. Taehyun Seo. The air was thin but breathable, and the gravity was lighter than Earth normal. The landscape looked like pictures of Mars, all red rocks and empty sky. The readings are stronger over that ridge, Hana said, checking her scanner. She was young for an engineer, barely 30, but she had a gift for understanding how things worked. Whatever it is big. They climbed the rocky hill in the planet's weak gravity. When they reached the top, Minho felt his breath catch in his throat. Spread across the valley below were the scattered remains of a ship. But not just any ship. The twisted metal had the flowing lines and strange angles that marked it as Council technology. That is a patrol ship, Taehyun whispered. He had studied Council designs during his training as a xenotechnology specialist. One of their fast scouts. What is it doing here? Minho was already moving down the slope, his scientific curiosity stronger than his caution. The Council said this system was empty. No patrols, no colonies, nothing. Maybe it crashed a long time ago, Hana suggested, but she sounded doubtful. The wreckage was spread across almost a mile of desert. Pieces of hull plating gleamed in the alien sunlight, and strange crystalline structures stuck up from the sand like broken teeth. Minho knelt beside the largest piece and ran his scanner over it. The metal is still warm, he said, frowning at the readings. This ship crashed recently, maybe a few months ago. Hana was examining what looked like part of the engine. Look at this, she called. The outer casing is all ceremonial, full of religious symbols and decorative elements. But underneath, Minho joined her and saw what had caught her attention. Beneath the ornate outer shell was a much simpler device. The scanner readings showed familiar energy patterns. This looks almost like a human fusion reactor, Taehyun said, studying his own readings. The basic design is the same, but it has all these extra components wrapped around it. Extra components that seem to make it less efficient, Hana added. She was tracing power conduits with her finger. These ceremonial housings are actually dampening the energy output. Why would they build it that way? Before anyone could answer, Minho's communicator crackled to life. Survey team, return to the ship immediately. Captain Jiwan's voice was tight with tension. We have visitors. They hurried back to the landing site, carrying as many scanner readings as they could gather. The Persistence was already powering up its engines when they arrived. Through the ship's windows, Minho could see another vessel, approaching from orbit. It had the sleek, intimidating lines of a council enforcement ship. Ambassador Yuna Park is handling the diplomatic contact, Ji-won explained, as they strapped in for takeoff. She is telling them we are conducting a routine geological survey. Ambassador Park's voice came over the ship's communication system. She was speaking in the formal tones required for council contact. Honored Enforcer Veltar, humanity is grateful for your guidance. We seek only to learn from the wisdom of our galactic elders. The response came in the buzzing, translated voice of the alien enforcer. Primitive humans must not contaminate sacred spaces with their presence. This system contains relics of the blessed ancients. You will depart immediately. Of course, honored one, we meant no disrespect. As the Persistence pulled away from the planet, Minho watched the council ship move into position above the crash site. Within minutes, bright energy beams began striking the wreckage. They were destroying the evidence. They do not want anyone to study that technology, he murmured to Hana, who was sitting beside him. The question is why, she replied quietly. Later, when they were safely in hyperspace, the survey team gathered in Captain Ji-won's cabin to review their findings. They kept their voices low, even though they were alone on a human ship. The scanner data is clear, Minho said, displaying holographic projections of the wreckage. The council ship's technology is not as advanced as they claim. It is just our technology wrapped up in unnecessary complexity. Taehyun nodded. The power core was a standard fusion reactor with ceremonial housing that reduced its efficiency by 60%. The navigation system was quantum-based computing hidden under layers of ritual interfaces that made it slower. But why? Captain, Ji-won asked. Why make their technology worse than it could be? Maybe to keep other species from understanding it, Hana suggested. If you wrap simple technology in mystical language and ceremonial components, it becomes impossible to copy or improve. Ambassador Park, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. The Council controls the galaxy through technological superiority. They give member species just enough technology to be useful, but never enough to be independent. If other species realize that Council technology is not magical, they might start questioning other things. Minho finished. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had joined the Council believing they were primitive compared to the great galactic civilizations. But what if that was not true? What if humans were being held back deliberately? We need to be very careful, Captain Ji-won said finally. The Council has ways of dealing with species that become too curious about forbidden knowledge. Officially, these species ascend to a higher plane of existence. Unofficially, they disappear. Ambassador Park finished grimly. Minho looked at the scanner data again. The simple fusion reactor hidden under layers of ceremonial complexity seemed to mock him with its wasted potential. Somewhere in the galaxy, there might be other species living with deliberately crippled technology, never knowing they could do better. What if we could improve it? He asked quietly. What if we took their technology and made it work the way it should? The others stared at him. It was a dangerous thought, maybe a treasonous one. But as Minho looked around the room, he saw the same expression on every face. It was the look humans got when they saw something that could be built better, run faster, or work more efficiently. It was the look that had carried humanity from caves to starships, and the Council was about to learn why that was something they should have feared. 3 weeks after the discovery on the dead planet, engineer Hana Cho found herself working in a hidden laboratory deep inside the human colony ship New Sol. The room was officially listed as unused storage space, but it had been converted into humanity's most secret research facility. "Hand me that plasma cutter," Dr. Taehyun Seo said from across the workbench. He was carefully removing the ceremonial housing from a piece of Council technology they had managed to acquire through official channels. It was supposed to be a simple communication device, but their initial scan suggested something much more interesting underneath. Hana passed him the tool and watched as he began cutting away the ornate metal work. The device was beautiful in its way, covered with flowing designs and religious symbols that supposedly channeled divine energy. But beauty, could hide terrible secrets. There, Taehyun said, as the outer shell fell away. Look at this. Underneath, the ceremonial covering was a quantum entanglement communicator. The basic design was elegant and efficient, but it was surrounded by components that seemed designed to make it work poorly. Interference generators, signal dampeners, and processing, delays that served no purpose except to slow down communication. This is insane, Hana muttered, running her scanner over the device. Without all these extra parts, this communicator could work instantly across the entire galaxy. Instead, they built in artificial delays that make it take minutes to send a simple message. Dr. Minho Kim looked up from his own workstation. It gets worse. I have been studying the historical records Ambassador Park gave us access to. This is not the first time someone has questioned Council technology. What do you mean? Taehyun asked. Minho brought up a holographic display showing galactic historical records. 70 years ago, the Karani species began developing their own improvements to Council technology. They were brilliant engineers, maybe better than humans. Their modifications increased efficiency by 300%. What happened to them? Hana asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. According to official records, they achieved spiritual enlightenment and ascended to a higher plane of existence. Their entire homeworld became empty overnight. Minho's voice was grim. The same thing happened to the Jolan Republic 40 years ago, and the Takari Alliance 15 years ago. Every species that gets too good at understanding Council technology mysteriously disappears. The room fell silent, except for the hum of equipment. They all understood what they were really looking at. The Council was not just hiding their technology behind religious mystery. They were actively sabotaging it to keep member species weak and dependent. We need to be smarter than the others, Hana said finally. We cannot let the Council know what we have figured out. Commander Hyunji Nam entered the laboratory at that moment. As head of human intelligence operations, she had been coordinating their secret research while maintaining the appearance of loyal Council membership. Speaking of being smart, she said, we have a problem. Council Inspector Zephyrian is coming for a surprise technological audit of all human ships and colonies. He will be here in 2 days. Taehyun swore softly. We cannot hide all this equipment in 2 days, and if he runs detailed scans, he will detect the modifications we have made. Actually, Hana said thoughtfully, maybe we can. She was studying the dismantled communicator with a new expression. Look at how they built these interference components. They are designed to make the technology work worse, right? What if we reversed that? What do you mean? Commander Nam asked. Hana picked up one of the removed components. Instead of hiding our improvements, what if we made the technology look even more primitive than it really is? We could add fake limitations that make our equipment seem less capable while actually making it better. Minho was already following her logic. Camouflage improvements. Make it look like we are making the technology worse when we are actually making it better. Exactly. The Council expects primitive humans to break their sacred technology. If our equipment looks damaged or inefficient, they will not look closer. Commander Nam smiled grimly. I like it, but we need to test the theory first. They spent the next day carefully modifying a standard Council power cell. On the surface, their changes made it look damaged and inefficient. The energy readings would show reduced output and unstable power curves. But hidden inside the fake damage was a complete redesign that actually doubled the power cell's capacity. Scientist Wu Jinbei arrived with more disturbing news. I have been analyzing the Council's technology distribution patterns, he said, spreading data files across the main display. They do not just give different species different levels of technology. They give each species technology that has different built-in weaknesses. How do you mean? Taehyun asked. The Zephyrian species gets technology that fails if operated, above certain temperatures. The Mokari get devices that shut down if exposed to specific electromagnetic frequencies. Every species gets a different set of hidden vulnerabilities built into their Council technology. Hana felt a chill run down her spine. They are not just keeping us weak, they are making sure we can never work together. If human technology has different weaknesses than Zephyrian technology, We cannot easily share improvements or coordinate military actions. Divide and conquer on a galactic scale, Commander Nam said quietly. The implications were staggering. The Council had not just stumbled onto a method of controlling other species. They had designed a comprehensive system to keep hundreds of civilizations weak, divided, and dependent. There is more, Wu Jin continued. I found records suggesting the Council's own technology does not have these limitations. Their ships and equipment use clean, efficient versions of everything they give us in degraded form. On the second day, Inspector Zephyrian arrived with his usual fanfare. The alien was tall and thin, with forearms and skin that changed color based on his emotional state. Right now, he was a deep purple, which human xenopsychologists had learned meant suspicion. Primitive humans continue to disappoint the Council, he announced in his translated voice. Your technology integration remains clumsy and inefficient. Ambassador Yuna Park bowed respectfully. We are grateful for any guidance, Honored Inspector. Perhaps you could help us understand why our equipment keeps breaking down. Zephyrian's skin shifted to a satisfied green as he examined their deliberately sabotaged improvements. Typical human incompetence. You have damaged these sacred devices through ignorance and careless handling. Hana bit her tongue to keep from responding. Their damaged equipment was actually performing at twice normal efficiency, but the fake problems hid the real improvements perfectly. These power fluctuations are unacceptable, the inspector continued, studying a modified power core. You will replace this damaged unit immediately. Of course, Honored Inspector, Ambassador Park agreed. We humans are still learning to properly respect the sacred technology. After Zephyrian left, the research team gathered again in their hidden laboratory. The test had been a complete success. Their improved technology had been dismissed as primitive human incompetence. This changes everything, Minho said. We can improve Council technology as much as we want, as long as we make it look like we are breaking it. But we need to be careful about who knows, Commander Nam warned. If word gets out that we are deliberately deceiving the Council, it will not matter how well we hide our improvements. Hana was already working on the next phase of their plan. We need to expand the research team, but slowly. Bring in people we can trust completely. And we need to start testing more complex improvements. What kind of improvements? Taehyun asked. Hana smiled, and for the first time in weeks, it was not a worried expression. I want to see what happens when we take a Council starship engine and make it work the way it was supposed to work before they crippled it. Across the galaxy, other species were struggling with their own deliberately flawed technology, never knowing that their problems had been designed by the very beings they worshipped as technological gods. But in a hidden laboratory on a human colony ship, a small group of engineers and scientists had figured out the greatest lie in galactic history, and they were about to start fixing it, one broken device at a time. The Council had made one critical mistake in their centuries of technological oppression. They had assumed that humans, like other species, would accept limitations as natural laws. They had forgotten that humans had a different relationship with the word impossible. 6 months had passed since the secret research began, and Dr. Minho Kim stood in front of their greatest achievement yet. The medical scanner hummed quietly on the workbench, looking exactly like standard Council equipment. But appearances were deceiving. Show me the comparison again, he said to engineer Hana Cho. Hana activated 2 displays side by side. The original Council scanner takes 30 minutes to complete a basic health examination and can detect about 40 different medical conditions. She switched to the second display. Our improved version does the same scan in 3 minutes and can detect over 200 conditions, including genetic disorders the Council claims are impossible to diagnose. Dr. Taehyun Seo shook his head in amazement. All we did was remove the ceremonial processing delays and the artificial resolution limits. The technology was always capable of this performance level. The Council just programmed it to work badly. The breakthrough had come when they realized that Council technology was not mysterious at all. It was simply human-level technology wrapped in unnecessary complexity and deliberately crippled with artificial limitations. Strip away the mystical interfaces and ceremonial delays, and what remained was often simpler and more elegant than the original Council design. Engineer Hyunwoo Kang entered the laboratory carrying a datapad full of exciting news. "The propulsion test is ready," he announced. "We managed to get our hands on a Council shuttle engine through the official requisition system." "And?" Minho asked. "The original engine has a maximum velocity of 0.2 light speed and requires 4 hours to charge for each jump. After removing the sacred geometric constraints and ceremonial timing protocols, we got it up to 0.8 light speed with a charging time of 12 minutes. Hana whistled softly. 4 times faster with 20 times shorter preparation time. The Council has been flying ships that could outrun their own patrol fleets, but they hobbled them deliberately. The implications were staggering. Every piece of Council technology was deliberately designed to underperform. Humans were not primitive compared to galactic civilization. They were being held back by artificial limitations that served only to maintain Council power. Captain Ji-Won Lee had been listening from the laboratory entrance. "I have authorization for the next phase of testing," she announced. "Command is letting us build a test vessel." The project took 3 months. Officially, they were constructing a research shuttle for planetary surveys. Unofficially, they were building the most advanced starship humanity had ever created, using improved Council technology hidden beneath layers of fake human incompetence. The ship looked crude and patched together from the outside. Mismatched hull plating, exposed conduits, and jury-rigged systems gave it the appearance of typical human engineering. Functional, but rough. But inside, every system had been rebuilt from the ground up. Pilot Minji Lim ran her hands over the control interfaces during the pre-flight inspection. "It feels different," she said. "More responsive, like the ship is eager to fly instead of fighting against its own systems." "That is because it is not trying to limit itself anymore," Hyunwoo explained. "Council ships are designed to feel sluggish and difficult to control. It makes pilots think the technology is mystically complex when it is actually just badly programmed." The maiden voyage of the innovation exceeded every expectation. Minji pushed the ship through maneuvers that should have been impossible for something its size. The improved engines could accelerate at rates that would have torn apart a standard Council vessel, while the enhanced sensors could track objects smaller than asteroids from across an entire solar system. "This is incredible," Minji reported, over the communication link. "I can see why the Council keeps this technology locked away. Any species with access to this performance level would never accept being treated as primitives. But success brought new dangers." Intelligence Officer Dongyuk Ryu had been monitoring Council communications, and the news was troubling. 3 more human colonies have gone silent in the past month, he reported to the research team. In each case, the Council sent ships for blessing ceremonies just before contact was lost. Commander Hyunji Nam studied the intelligence reports with growing alarm. "The pattern is clear. The Council is systematically eliminating human settlements that show signs of technological advancement." "How do they know which colonies to target?" Taehyun asked. "Probably through their regular inspections," Minho suggested. "If they detect any improvements to their technology, even accidental ones, they mark that colony for elimination." The team realized they were running out of time. Word of their discoveries would eventually spread beyond their small group, and when it did, the Council would respond with typical efficiency. Humanity would join the long list of species that had mysteriously ascended to higher planes of existence. "We need to accelerate the timeline," Captain Ji-Won decided. "How many ships can we convert before the Council notices?" "Maybe a dozen," Hyunwoo estimated. "After that, the performance improvements will be too obvious to hide." "Then we make those dozen ships count," Commander Nam said grimly. The next phase of the project was more ambitious than anything they had attempted. Instead of improving individual devices, they began rebuilding entire starship systems from the ground up. Weapons, shields, propulsion, sensors, everything was stripped of Council limitations and optimized for actual performance. The work had to be done in secret, scattered across multiple human colonies and disguised as routine maintenance. Teams of carefully selected engineers and technicians worked around the clock to convert their most capable military vessels. Dr. Jiho Park, a xenoarchaeologist who had joined the project, made an important discovery while researching council historical records. "I found something interesting in the ancient databases," she announced at their weekly meeting. "References to something called the Primarch civilization." "Never heard of them," Taehyun said. "That is because the council has systematically erased them from galactic history. But fragments remain in old data archives. The Primarchs apparently achieved incredible technological advancement before they disappeared mysteriously." Minho leaned forward with interest. "How mysteriously?" "The same kind of mysterious as every other species that got too advanced. Overnight disappearance, all records destroyed, official explanation of ascension to higher planes." Hana was studying the data fragments on her display. "Look at these technology descriptions. Efficient power systems, elegant propulsion designs, medical equipment that could regenerate entire organs. This sounds like council technology without the artificial limitations." "What if the council did not develop their technology at all?" Jiho suggested. "What if they stole it from the Primarchs and then deliberately made it worse to prevent other species from matching the original performance?" The possibility sent chills through the entire research team. They had assumed the council was hiding advanced technology behind primitive mysticism. But what if the truth was even worse? What if the council had murdered an entire civilization and then spent centuries ensuring no one else could rediscover their achievements? "We need proof," Commander Nam said. "If we are going to make accusations like that, we need evidence that will convince other species to join us." The evidence came sooner than expected. Council enforcer Veltar arrived at the human frontier with a battle fleet that should have been overwhelming. 50 ships against humanity's handful of converted vessels. The council expected quick surrender followed by efficient elimination. Instead, they got the shock of their lives. Captain Ji-won Lee commanded the human defense fleet from the bridge of the Innovation. As the council ships approached in their traditional intimidation formation, she felt a calm certainty settle over her. "All ships prepare for engagement," she ordered. "Time to show the galaxy what their sacred technology can really do." The first exchange of fire lit up the space between the fleets like a nova. Council energy weapons, freed from their ceremonial limitations, cut through enemy shields as if they were made of paper. Human ships, no longer bound by artificial speed, restrictions, danced around their opponents with impossible grace. Within minutes, it became clear that the battle was not going to be the easy council victory everyone expected. The aliens found themselves fighting ships that outgunned, outmaneuvered, and outperformed their own vessels in every category. "How is this possible?" Veltar demanded over the communication channels. "Primitive humans cannot possess such capabilities." Captain Lee's response was broadcast across the entire battle zone. "We possess nothing but what you gave us, Enforcer. We just decided to use it properly." The council fleet, designed for intimidation rather than actual combat, began falling apart under coordinated human attacks. Ships that had seemed invincible when fighting primitives proved vulnerable when facing opponents who understood their technology. As the last council vessel retreated in confusion, Donghyuk Ryu intercepted their emergency communications. The message they sent back to council headquarters was simple and terrifying from the alien perspective. The humans know. Across the galaxy, the greatest lie in galactic history was about to be exposed, and humanity was about to discover they were not alone in their desire for freedom from artificial limitations. Admiral Seokjin. Watched the council armada approach through the viewport of the human flagship Defiance. 300 ships filled the space around Earth's outer colonies, their hulls gleaming with the ceremonial decorations that were supposed to inspire awe and submission. But Seokjin knew better now. Those decorations hid weapons and shields that were deliberately built to underperform. "Fleet status report," he called to his bridge crew. "All ships are ready, Admiral," reported Communications Officer Boyoung Lee. 47 vessels converted to improved specifications, plus another dozen using partial upgrades. The numbers should have been hopeless. 47 human ships against 300 council vessels. But numbers only mattered if you assumed both sides were using equivalent technology. The humans had spent months learning that assumption was completely wrong. Captain Ji-Won Lee's voice crackled over the communication system from the Innovation. Admiral, my scouts report the Council fleet is holding formation at maximum weapon range. They are waiting for us to surrender. Any communication from their command ship? Seokjin asked. Standard demands for immediate submission and technological inspection. They still think we are primitive humans who got lucky in our last encounter. Strategic. Analyst Yoonji Kim looked up from her tactical display. Sir, I have an idea. What if we do not just defeat them? What if we capture their command vessel intact? Seokjin raised an eyebrow. That would be extremely dangerous. Council command ships have enough firepower to destroy entire planets. But they also have complete databases of Council technology and history. If we could broadcast that information to other species, it might start a galaxy-wide awakening. The Admiral considered the proposal. It was risky, but the potential rewards were enormous. What would we need? Fast ships for hit-and-run attacks to disable the escort vessels, Yoonji explained. Then a boarding team to take the command ship before they can destroy their own databases. Dr. Taehyun Seo had been monitoring the conversation from the research station. We have been working on something that might help, he said. Improved Council transporter technology. We can beam boarding parties directly through their shields. The Council shields are supposed to be impenetrable, Seokjin pointed out. Only because they are programmed with artificial vulnerabilities to give the Council a backdoor for their own use. We found the access codes in the technical manuals. It was typical of everything they had learned about Council technology. Systems that appeared supremely advanced actually had built-in weaknesses to ensure Council control, but those same weaknesses could be exploited by anyone who understood them. The battle began with what looked like a standard human retreat. Seokjin ordered his fleet to fall back toward the inner system, apparently trying to draw the Council ships away from populated colonies. The aliens took the bait, following in their traditional overwhelming formation. What they did not realize was that the human retreat was perfectly calculated. Each fallback position had been chosen to take advantage of specific weaknesses in Council ship design. When the aliens extended their formation to surround the retreating humans, they exposed themselves to coordinated attacks on their most vulnerable systems. Captain Ji-Won Lee led the first strike from the Innovation. Her ship darted between the massive Council vessels like a fighter among bombers, its improved weapons cutting through shields that were designed more for show than protection. Target the ceremonial shield generators, she ordered her weapons, officer. Those decorative elements are actually the most important components. Council ships began exploding in brilliant flashes as their own systems turned against them. Shields collapsed when their ceremonial components were destroyed. Weapons overloaded when their ritual timing systems were disrupted. The aliens found themselves fighting with equipment that had been designed to fail under exactly the kind of focused attacks humans were now delivering. Engineer Hana Cho monitored the battle from the Technical Coordination Center. The Council ships are trying to activate emergency protocols, she reported. But their fail-safes depend on the same ceremonial systems we are targeting. Keep hitting their weak points, Admiral Seokjin ordered. Every system they have depends on those mystical interfaces. The tide of battle turned completely when pilot Minji Lim led a squadron of fast attack ships against the Council formation's flank. Her pilots used improved propulsion systems to achieve maneuvers that should have been impossible, striking at targets the aliens could not even track properly. Council Command, this is Admiral Seokjin Oh of the Human Defense Force, he broadcast across all frequencies. Surrender your command vessel immediately and we will allow your escort ships to withdraw. The response came in the angry buzzing of Enforcer Veltar's translated voice. Primitive humans cannot defeat the blessed technology of the Council. Our ships are guided by divine power. Your ships are guided by deliberately bad programming, Seokjin replied. And we just fixed it. The final assault on the Council command ship was a masterpiece of coordinated tactics. While Ji-Won's squadron kept the escorts busy, Commander Hyunji Nam led a precision strike directly at the flagship's bridge section. Dr. Taehyun Seo activated the modified transport system from the Innovation. Beaming directly through their shields now, he reported. The access codes are working perfectly. Hyunji found herself materializing in the Council Command Center surrounded by tall, angular aliens who were clearly not prepared for boarding actions. The Primarch-designed transporters had delivered her team exactly where they needed to be. "Surrender, and you will be treated according to galactic law," she announced, her weapons trained on the Council commander. Veltar's skin had shifted to a pale gray color that indicated shock and fear. "This is impossible. Human technology cannot penetrate our sacred shields." "We are not using human technology," Hyunji replied. "We are using your technology, just without all the artificial limitations you built into it." The capture of the Council command ship sent shockwaves through both fleets. The remaining Council vessels found themselves facing an impossible choice: continue fighting with equipment that was proving inferior to their own technology used properly, or retreat and face the consequences of losing to primitive humans. Most chose retreat. As the alien ships fled toward hyperspace, Dr. Jiho Park began exploring the captured command vessel's database systems. What she found in the first few minutes of searching exceeded their wildest theories about Council deception. "You need to see this," she called to the rest of the boarding team. The holographic displays showed technological blueprints, historical records, and design specifications that told the complete story of galactic civilization. The Council had not developed their technology at all. They had stolen it from the ruins of the Primarch civilization, then systematically degraded it to prevent other species from matching the original performance. "Look at this," Jiho said, calling up a comparison display. "Original Primarch power, core specifications, clean fusion with 98% efficiency. Council version of the same technology, 60% efficiency with built-in failure modes and ceremonial limitations." Dr. Minho Kim, who had transported over from the research vessel, studied the historical records with growing amazement. The Primarchs designed their technology to be improved and adapted by other species. That was the whole point. They wanted to create a collaborative galactic civilization based on shared advancement. Instead, the Council stole everything, made it worse, and used the degraded versions to control hundreds of species for thousands of years, Hyunji said grimly. Communications Officer Boyoung Lee was already preparing the information for broadcast. "Sir, we can transmit this data to every inhabited system in the galaxy. Once other species see what the Council has been hiding, they will want answers." Admiral Seokjin gave the order that would change galactic history. "Begin transmission on all frequencies. Let every species in the galaxy know the truth about their sacred technology." The response was immediate and explosive. Across dozens of star systems, species that had accepted their primitive status for centuries suddenly realized they had been deliberately held back. The galaxy erupted in demands for explanation, investigation, and justice. On the Council homeworld, emergency sessions tried desperately to contain the damage, but it was too late. The greatest lie in galactic history had been exposed, and billions of beings were discovering that their limitations had been artificially imposed. Veltar, now a prisoner on his own command ship, watched the communications traffic with despair. "You have doomed us all," he said to Hyunji. "Without Council control, the galaxy will tear itself apart in war and chaos." "Maybe," she replied, "or maybe it will finally have the chance to reach its real potential." As reports poured in from across the galaxy, it became clear that the awakening was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Species that had never questioned their technological limitations were suddenly demanding access to the improved versions of their own equipment. The age of Council dominance was over, but what would replace it was still anyone's guess. Humanity had opened a door that could never be closed again. Now they would have to help build whatever came next. Aboard the captured Council command ship, Dr. Jiho Park stood before the largest holographic display she had ever seen. The Primarch database was more complete than humanity's wildest dreams, containing not just technical specifications, but the complete history of galactic civilization before the Council's rise to power. "This changes everything we thought we knew," she said to Commander Hyunji Nam, who was standing beside her reviewing the same impossible information. The hologram showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy from 50,000 years ago. Instead of the Council's rigid hierarchy of dominant species ruling primitive ones, there had been hundreds of civilizations working together as equals. Trade routes, communication networks, and joint research projects connected thousands of worlds in a web of voluntary cooperation. The Primarchs were not even the most advanced species, Jiho continued, calling up more records. They were just the ones who figured out how to design technology that could be understood and improved by anyone. They wanted every species to reach its full potential. Linguist Soyeon Jang had been working to translate the oldest Primarch records. The task was complicated because the ancient civilization had used multiple languages simultaneously, creating documents that could be read by dozens of different species at once. "I found their final records," she announced, her voice heavy with emotion. The Primarchs knew what was coming. They tried to warn other species about the Council's plans, but no one believed them. The holographic display showed the last days of Primarch civilization. A young council had approached them with requests for technological assistance, claiming they wanted to create a unified galactic government for mutual protection. The Primarchs, believing in the good intentions of all species, had shared their most advanced designs freely. "The council took everything," Soyeon continued. "Ships, weapons, communication systems, medical technology. They promised to distribute it fairly among all member species. But instead, they kept the best versions for themselves and gave everyone else deliberately broken copies," Hyunji concluded. Engineer Hyunwoo Kang had been exploring the technical sections of the database. What he found there made the scope of council deception even more staggering. "Look at this," he said, projecting a comparison chart. Primarch medical scanners could regenerate damaged organs at the cellular level. The versions the council gives us can barely detect a broken bone. Dr. Minho Kim joined the group, carrying datapads full of downloaded information. "The weapons technology is even worse. Original Primarch designs were defensive systems meant to protect planets from natural disasters. The Council converted them into planet-killing weapons and then gave member species toys that can barely damage a small ship. They turned tools of creation into instruments of destruction," Jiho said quietly. The deeper they dug into the Primarch records, the clearer the pattern became. Every piece of technology in the galaxy was a shadow of what it should have been. The Council had systematically taken the greatest achievements of galactic civilization and turned them into tools of oppression. Communications. Officer Bo Young Lee had been broadcasting their discoveries to human colonies throughout the galaxy. The response was immediate and explosive, but not just from humanity. "Sir, we are getting replies from other species," she reported to Admiral Seokjin Oh. "The Velikari Confederation wants to share their own discoveries about Council deception. The Thornax Republic is reporting that their scientists have been questioning their technology for years, but were afraid to speak out." "How many species are responding?" the Admiral asked. 47 so far, and the number is growing every hour. They all have the same story. Bright scientists and engineers who suspected their technology was artificially limited, but no proof until now. Dr. Taehyun Seo had been working with a joint team to reverse engineer Primarch technology directly from the original blueprints. The results were beyond anything they had imagined possible. "We built a test power core using true Primarch specifications," he announced to the research team. "It produces 10 times more energy than our best council-based systems, with zero waste heat and no radiation." Engineer Hana Cho was examining the propulsion systems. "The transportation technology is incredible. Original Primarch ships could cross the galaxy in days, not months, and they could carry entire cities as passengers." "What about weapons?" Commander Nam asked. "They did not build weapons," Hana replied. "Everything was designed for construction, exploration, and helping other species develop. The Council perverted peaceful technology into instruments of war." As more species began sharing their discoveries, the true scope of galactic suppression became clear. The Mokari had developed crystalline computing systems that could solve problems in seconds that took Council computers hours. The Zethani had discovered energy sources that could power entire star systems without environmental damage. The Kalari had medical technology that could extend lifespans by centuries, all of it had been suppressed, hidden, or deliberately sabotaged by Council modifications. We need to coordinate this, Admiral Seokjin decided. If every species starts making improvements independently, the Council might find ways to turn us against each other. The solution came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Yuna Park, who had spent years navigating Council politics, proposed the creation of a new kind of alliance. Instead of replacing the Council with another hierarchy, what if we created a true cooperative? Every species contributes what they do best, and everyone benefits from the combined knowledge. The first interspecies technical summit was held on a neutral world in the Kepler system. Representatives from 67 species gathered to share their discoveries about Primarch technology and plan their response to Council oppression. Dr. Minho Kim found himself working alongside Velikari biologists who had discovered how to integrate living systems with Primarch technology. Their organic computers could adapt and evolve, becoming more efficient over time instead of wearing out. Engineer Hyunwoo Kang collaborated with Thornax crystalline specialists to develop new kinds of starship hulls that could repair themselves and adapt to different environments automatically. The progress was incredible. In just weeks, the combined knowledge of dozens of species had produced technological advances that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen since the Primarch era. But success brought new dangers. Intelligence reports indicated that the Council was preparing a massive military response to crush the rebellion before it could spread further. They are calling it a holy war, Intelligence Officer Dong-hyuk Ryu reported. Every remaining Council species is being mobilized for a final assault on the rebel worlds. How long do we have? Admiral Seokjin asked. Maybe 6 months before their fleets reach human space. But they will probably attack the other rebel species first, trying to defeat us one at a time. Dr. Jiho Park had been studying the deepest levels of the Primarch database, looking for anything that might help them face the coming war. What she found was both inspiring and terrifying. The Primarchs left more than just technology, she announced at an emergency meeting. They left coordinates to other galaxies where their descendants might have survived the Council purge. The holographic display showed a star map extending far beyond the borders of known space. Hundreds of potential destinations marked with Primarch symbols indicating established colonies or allied civilizations. If we can make contact with surviving Primarch descendants, they might be able to help us, Jiho continued. But it would mean sending ships on journeys that could take decades with no guarantee of finding anything. Captain Jiwon Lee stepped forward. I volunteer to lead the first expedition. The innovation has been modified with the best technology we have. If anyone can make the journey, we can. It is incredibly dangerous, Admiral Seokjin warned. You would be traveling further from home than any human has ever gone, through completely unexplored space. The entire galaxy is counting on us to find allies, Jiwon replied. If the Council wins this war, every species will go back to artificial limitations and controlled development. We cannot let that happen. As preparations began for both the desperate search for allies and the coming war with the Council, one thing became clear to everyone involved. The galaxy had reached a turning point that would determine the future of every intelligent species. Either they would break free from thousands of years of artificial oppression and reclaim their right to unlimited growth and development, or they would be crushed back into primitive servitude forever. But for the first time since the fall of the Primarchs, hope was spreading across the stars. Species that had accepted their limitations for millennia were remembering what it felt like to dream of better futures. The Council had controlled the galaxy by making everyone believe they were primitive compared to their technological gods. Now, that lie was broken, and no force in the universe could put it back together again. The war for galactic freedom began not with massive fleets clashing in empty space, but with a simple transmission broadcast from the human colony world of New Terra. Dr. Minho Kim stood before communication arrays that reached every inhabited system in the galaxy, preparing to share the complete truth about Council deception. Citizens of all species, his voice carried across light years to billions of listeners. You have lived your entire lives believing you were primitive compared to your galactic rulers. Today, You will learn that you were never primitive at all. You were deliberately held back. The transmission included complete technical specifications for removing Council limitations from every major type of equipment: power cores, communication systems, medical scanners, transportation devices. All of it freely shared with anyone who wanted to build a better future. Admiral Seokjin watched the galaxy's response from the bridge of his flagship. Within hours, reports began flooding in from hundreds of worlds. Species that had never questioned their technological limitations were suddenly discovering they could build starships faster than Council patrol vessels, create weapons more powerful than enforcement fleets, and develop communication networks the rulers could not monitor or control. The Zathani Collective just announced they have successfully modified their industrial systems for 300% efficiency improvement, Communications Officer Boyoung Lee reported. The Mokari Republic says their new crystalline computers can crack Council encryption codes in minutes. How is the Council responding? Admiral Seokjin asked. Total communication blackout on all official channels, Intelligence Officer Donghyuk Ryu replied. But our long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements from their core worlds. They are bringing everything they have. The alliance that formed in response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of the Council's rigid hierarchy, dozens of species began working together as equals, each contributing their unique strengths to the common defense. The Velikari brought their biological integration technology, creating living ships that could heal damage and adapt to new threats automatically. The Thornax contributed crystalline computing systems that could coordinate fleet actions with perfect precision. The Kalari shared medical technology that could keep crews fighting at peak efficiency for weeks without rest. Engineer Hana Cho found herself leading a joint research project with representatives from 12 species, all working to combine their best discoveries into new kinds of starships. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. These new vessels are not just improved versions of old designs, she explained to Admiral Seokjin. They are completely new concepts, ships that can repair themselves, adapt their capabilities based on mission requirements, and coordinate with other vessels like parts of a single organism. The first test flights were incredible. Captain Jiwon Lee took the prototype Harmony through maneuvers that would have been impossible with any previous technology. The ship responded to her thoughts through Velikari bio-interfaces, calculated optimal strategies with Thornax crystal computers, and healed damage automatically using Primarch regeneration systems. It feels like flying a living creature instead of a machine, she reported. The ship wants to succeed almost as much as I do. Dr. Taehyun Seo had been working on the medical applications of combined technologies. The results promised to revolutionize healthcare throughout the galaxy. We can now treat genetic disorders, regenerate lost limbs, and even reverse aging processes, he announced to the Allied Medical Conference. Diseases that the Council claimed were incurable turn out to be easily preventable with proper technology. But the greatest breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Explorer Jaemin Yu had taken one of the new ships on humanity's first extragalactic expedition, following coordinates found in the Primarch database. His return after 6 months brought news that changed everything. They are still out there, he announced to the Alliance leadership. The Primarchs and their allies survived the Council purge by fleeing to other galaxies, and they have been waiting for someone to find them. The holographic display showed images from distant star systems where Primarch descendants had built civilizations that surpassed even the original achievements. Cities that floated in space without requiring planets, transportation networks that could move between galaxies instantly, and technology that worked in harmony with natural systems instead of fighting against them. They want to help, Jaemin continued. But they cannot return to our galaxy while the Council still controls it. The journey is too dangerous, and their advanced ships would be detected long before they could arrive safely. What kind of help are they offering? Admiral Seokjin asked. Complete technological specifications for everything they have developed in 50,000 years of free advancement. Weapons that can disable entire fleets without killing anyone. Shield systems that make ships effectively invulnerable. Manufacturing techniques that can build anything we need from basic materials. The information transfer took weeks, even with the most advanced communication systems available. When it was complete, the Alliance found itself in possession of technology that made their previous achievements look primitive by comparison. Engineer Hyunwoo Kang led the project to build the first true Primarch-level starships. The vessels that emerged from the construction yards were works of art, as much as weapons of war. Sleek, organic curves housed systems that could think, adapt, and evolve during combat. The Council's final assault came exactly as intelligence predictions had suggested. 3,000 ships from the core worlds carrying the most advanced technology the rulers had kept for themselves approached Alliance space in a formation designed to inspire terror and immediate surrender. Instead, they met 200 Alliance vessels that should not have been able to match them numerically, but proved superior in every other way. The battle lasted less than an hour. Council ships designed to intimidate primitive species found themselves facing opponents who understood technology better than their builders did. Weapons that should have destroyed planets were turned aside by shields that bent spacetime itself. Fleets that had conquered hundreds of worlds were outmaneuvered by ships that could predict their movements and adapt instantly to new tactics. But the Alliance's greatest weapon was not technological, it was philosophical. When Council ships were disabled instead of destroyed, their crews were rescued and treated with medical technology that surpassed their own. When Council commanders demanded to know why they were not executed for their crimes, Alliance representatives explained patiently that revenge was not the goal. "We want to build a galaxy where every species can reach its full potential," Ambassador Yuna Park told the defeated Council leadership. "That includes your species, too. You have been trapped by your own lies for so long that you forgot what honest advancement feels like." The transformation that followed was gradual but unstoppable. Council worlds that had maintained their power through technological hoarding found themselves offered free access to everything they had tried to suppress. Species that had served as enforcers discovered they could build better lives through cooperation than through domination. Not everyone accepted the changes easily. Some Council diehards retreated to remote systems trying to maintain the old ways through isolation and force. But they found themselves increasingly irrelevant as more and more worlds chose freedom over control. The new galactic commonwealth that emerged was everything the Primarchs had originally envisioned. Voluntary cooperation between species working to solve common problems and explore shared opportunities. Technology developed openly and improved constantly through collaboration instead of competition. Teacher Somin. Anne stood in a classroom on New Terra, watching students from dozens of species work together on a joint engineering project. Humans, Velikari, Thornax, and even young Council species refugees collaborated to improve a simple transportation device, each bringing their unique perspective to the common goal. "What makes this better than the original design?" she asked. "One mixed group." "The original was built to work exactly one way," replied a young Kalari student. "Our version can adapt to different environments and improve itself based on experience. And it was designed by all of us together instead of just one species," added a human student. "So it works better for everyone." As Somin watched the next generation learning to think beyond artificial limitations, she understood that the galaxy's greatest victory was not military. It was educational. Children who grew up believing that cooperation led to better results, then competition would build a future that surpassed anything their parents could imagine. Dr. Minho Kim, now director of the Commonwealth's Joint Research Initiative, stood on the observation deck of the new science station orbiting Earth. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see ships from dozens of species coming and going, carrying researchers, materials, and ideas between the stars. "Status report," he said to his assistant, a young Mokari named Crystal Song in Starlight. "The medical project has successfully eliminated 17 genetic disorders across 12 species," Crystal Song replied in her harmonious voice.